Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with another Fan TV back action of the video. At the content, this video, go smash that like button at the content. This channel, go subscribe, man. Look, so Ravens versus Cleveland Browns, man. This Sunday, 4:25. I want to get my thoughts on the game. Also talk about the injury report and a little bit more in detail, just because of there's some guys on it that are going to be important, that are going to be missing. Then also, a Ravens player that surprisingly, was kind of running on an adjacent field, right? So I think I want to talk about that as well. All right, so we'll get right into it. All right. Now, as far as the Ravens injury report goes, players that are officially listed as out: Jay Higgins, Justice Hill, Marlon Humphrey. John Harbaugh announced that Marlon Humphrey pretty much had his finger pinned and is going to miss either 1 week or 2 weeks. So he'll definitely miss this week versus the Browns. He could miss the next week as well. We'll see. And then some guys that probably aren't going to play. Rashad Bateman's been DNP all week with that high ankle sprain. And Mike Green popped up on the injury report with the ankle sprain this week. Limited participant on Thursday. And then DNP on Friday. So he's not listed as questionable, but DNP last day. That's kind of rough to see him playing. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. But guys that's on the injury report that 100% going to play for the Ravens: Lamar Jackson, Isaiah Likely, Keaton Mitchell, Ronnie Stanley, and Malachi Starks. So some good names on there as well. Some good names on there. For the Browns, it's like Browns. Everybody that's on the injury report is pretty much a full go, except for Alex Wright. Denzel Ward, that's interesting. No, Denzel Ward it was rest related, so he'll be out there playing. All right. Anyway, so the player I do want to talk about is Darius Washington, and I was going to do a whole separate video on it yesterday, but I got busy and things like that, so it is what it is. But briefly, we'll talk about it. Darius Washington yesterday was running on a side field, not practicing or anything like that, but just running on the side field. He came back into the building for the first time this week. I believe he might have been even around the building last week. So I don't want to say for the first time, but there have been some more reports of Darius Washington showing up. And as we know, back in the offseason, Darius Washington tore his Achilles very, very early on in the offseason, right? And, he's expected to miss this entire year. Harbaugh kind of threw it out there that, hey, maybe we'll get him back late in the season. We'll see what happens, right? Now, there's no official timetable for him to come back. John Harbaugh didn't put anything out there like that. He just said he's just getting going. It's a long ramp-up process for him. But honestly, in the offseason, it seemed like a pipe dream, right? It seemed like something that could really come to fruition and even be discussed of as a possibility of happening. So the fact that he's running on this field right now is great news. So it's too early to think about, well, if he does come back, what does that mean for snap counts, things like that. If the Ravens defense is rolling, I don't think they're going to disrupt that too much. But the point is that Darius Washington last year was a very, very important person to the Ravens defense. And one of the reasons outside of, Kyle Hamilton being Kyle Hamilton, that the defense really turned around last year. So, we were all excited to see what he could do this year. Unfortunately, he got hurt and we didn't get a chance to see what he could fully do out there. But I do think it's interesting that he's already kind of, getting back. Now he's probably, a while away from even practicing, so we'll see what happens there. And even if he does get back, Aloy Gilman is playing well, Malachi Starks is playing well, so obviously Kyle Hamilton isn't going anywhere, so it's kind of hard. Who do you take out as far as this point in the season? But if Darius Washington looks good, looks like he's not his old self, because I don't expect nothing from him this year, but it's more of an offseason conversation, right? Because it comes down between, well, do you like him? Give him a contract, or do you like Aloy Gilman, right? So that's going to be an interesting thing to watch out for. I really like the way Aloy Gilman has played, but Darius Washington was supposed to be the guy before he got hurt. So where do the Ravens find that balance? So that's more of an offseason topic that I think that's really going to carry on to this season, but it's just something to watch out for, right? But anyway, all right, now for the Cleveland Browns, last 3 games, 1-2. They're 2-7 on the year as a whole. 31-6 win versus the Dolphins. 32-13 loss versus the Patriots. 27-20 loss versus the New York Jets last week. All right, in a game where Justin Fields only completed 6 for 11, and I believe he had 54 yards, 42 of which came on the screen pass to Breece Hall that turned into a touchdown. All right, so not a great showing to lose to that kind of offensive performance, but that's what the Browns did. I think the Jets also had a punt return touchdown and a kick return touchdown in the same game. So interesting way for the Jets to score their 3 touchdowns, for being quite honest, right? Now, just talking about the Browns defense. The Browns defense is obviously the shining light of what they have over there. You got Myles Garrett, you got Carson Schwarzenegger, who's a really good rookie, linebacker, right? Some people think that he could be the guy that's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's having a really good year, right? Along with Abdul Carter. We love our guy Teddy Buchanan. But those two guys are kind of up in the front who comes to defensive rookie of the year. So Denzel Ward, they have good players on this Browns defense, and they play pretty well as well. So just looking at the stats here, second in passing yards allowed, and a lot of that could have to do with they're not winning a lot of games, so teams don't have to throw the ball on them, but they are still a good pass rush unit. They're averaging 3 sacks a game. Myles Garrett had a game versus the New England Patriots where he had 5 sacks by himself, right? So we already know got to know where 95 is at all times, right? But they're only giving up 98 yards on the ground, so that's 10th in the NFL. So this is a tough defense overall. If their offense was better, they could be an above average team for sure, but their offense is not very good at the moment, right? That's just what it is, right? So when it comes to third down possession for the Cleveland Browns, they're 8th as well, yards per game, 2nd, and middle of the pack, only giving up 23 points a game, and it could be a lot worse considering the fact that their offense doesn't do much on the other end, right? So, but they're not getting blown out consistently because their defense can keep them in the game. All right, so they have a good unit over there. Now, as far as the Browns' offense goes, we know that's the more struggling side of the team, right? They had Joe Flacco, they traded Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco explodes, goes off with the Bengals, and now they have Dylan Gabriel, right? Dylan Gabriel's a rookie quarterback, third round pick for them this year, and he struggled, to put it lightly. All right, he doesn't throw the ball very far down the field. When he does, he struggles to do that. He looks like a rookie out there, right? I know there's a lot of talk in the offseason about Dylan Gabriel being like a supercomputer. He processes everything so well, but that really hasn't come to fruition so far for the Browns, right? They're last or near last in a lot of categories when it comes to offensive play. 16.2 points a game, 29th. 265 yards a game overall for 31st. They throw the ball a lot. Second most attempts in the NFL, 37 a game. That's because they're losing, but only 168 yards a game for 29th. So you throw the ball the second most for like the 4th fewest yards in the league. It's not the balance you're looking for. And they're giving up almost 3 sacks a game, which is 23rd in the NFL. So, a lot of things going wrong on this Browns offense between the talent, the scheme, the coaching. A lot of stuff is going wrong. So the Ravens can't let up in any form of fashion in this game. That's the main thing. Do not play down to level competition. We'll talk about that as well. All right, but this Browns offense with a rookie quarterback, to me, the talking points is the same as the talking points were last week for J.J. McCarthy, who was pretty much a rookie quarterback. The Ravens. Growing up, what I saw was the Ravens quarterback made rookie quarterbacks look like rookies. Confused, distraught, didn't know what's going on, game moving too fast, Ravens in my face, what's going on? All right, that's what I want to see. All right, that's what I'm looking out for. Okay, so if you could do it last week to J.J. McCarthy, who was surrounded by a much more talented offense, when they got guys like Addison and Jefferson and, Aaron Jones in the backfield, better O-line, then you should be able to do it to Dylan Gabriel in this Browns offense as well. All right, so that's my thoughts on that. I'm not going to spend too much time on the Browns offense because there's not much to talk about. Now, as far as keys to the game, right? Keys to the game here. So very important for the Ravens offense, right? For what the top bullet that I want to talk about is expanding on last week, okay? The Ravens did something that was very, very good to see last week, right? For all the talk of Lamar Jackson and the playoffs and stuff like that, to me, that's been way overblown, especially since Todd Monken's been the OC. He's been much, much better in the playoffs, right? But anyway, if you want to have those discussions, right, the game he played last week versus the Minnesota Vikings is the kind of game that you're going to go into the playoffs and win you football games in the playoffs, right? It wasn't anything spectacular. I think he's under 200 yards, threw a couple touchdown passes, but the main part is no turnovers, no negative plays. The short passing game was effective. He took what was there, and this is all stuff Lamar Jackson is well capable of doing. It's also all stuff that the OC Todd Monken has to scheme up for him as well. You have to scheme up the short throws. We can't have every route going 10, 15 yards down the field, which has been a complaint of Monken, which is a very, very fair one, right? You can't deny that. Even though I like what Todd Monken does, but you can't deny that they throw the ball too far down the field, sometimes too often. High risk plays can lead to turnovers, and turnovers lose you games in the playoffs. Versus the Vikings, they didn't do that. Right, they took some of these intermediate plays there when they were there, but for the most part, Lamar Jackson I think had his most ever yards in the short passing game. Ryan Mink put a stat up about that. So when it came to the quick passing game, under control, no negative plays, that was a great game by the Ravens offense last week, right? I want to see you do that again, right? Because this Browns pass rush is very good. The Browns offense might be bad, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where now all of a sudden this game is in the balance because you took too many sacks early, maybe you had a fumble on a strip sack because holding the ball too long, whatever. Offensive line not blocking well, whatever the case may be, you don't want to do that. And then expanding on that, I talk about this every week because it is truly the best version of the Ravens offense, and they don't do it a lot. And that's under center, play action, multiple tight ends on the field. You could do it out 11 too if you want to, but the main thing is that you want to be under center because this protects the offensive line as well. When the Ravens can when the Ravens can play fake under center, draw the linebackers up, Lamar Jackson is great over the middle. Lamar Jackson does the ball great everywhere over the field, but particularly over the middle of the field, he's hitting those guys in stride, beautiful passes every single time. Okay. Also, this kind of helps slow down a pass rush. And for the Browns, you have Myles Garrett on that side of the ball. You want to slow down that pass rush. How can you do that? When they don't know whether it's run or pass, right? The Ravens have fallen into a trap of being too predictable. And honestly, kind of leads to the next point with Justice Hill out the game, that might lend itself to not be as predictable, right? Because if Keaton Mitchell's on the field, the Ravens can hand it off to him or they can throw the ball to him. There is no, hey, Keaton's on the field, this is an obvious run, this is an obvious pass. None of that. Same with Derrick Henry. They could throw the ball to Derrick Henry, they could hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, right? So that's kind of my second point as well that kind of ties into the first one. What does this Keaton Mitchell, Derrick Henry 1-2 punch really look like? This is something that a lot of Ravens fans, myself included, have been waiting to see. Listen, I like Justice Hill. I like what he does. The justification for having him on the field was he's a great pass blocker, right? And you can't trust Keaton Mitchell to do that. While I understand that, you got a $100 million, $200 million quarterback back there. You don't want to leave him in harm's way. I get that. But if sometimes you have a better player, which Keaton Mitchell to me this year has been a better player than what Justice Hill has provided, you gotta let him play. All right. And if that means sometimes on third downs you have Derrick Henry out there so Derrick Henry can pass protect, so be it. But Keaton Mitchell needs to play more, right? Justice Hill to me has done enough to where he's just automatically over him, right? And now with him out the game, this is Keaton Mitchell's opportunity to see what he can really do in a more expanded role. Now, obviously, it's not going to be 50-50 snaps with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry will probably still get maybe 60% of the snaps, maybe 55% of the snaps because the Ravens have been playing him a whole bunch this year. Excuse me. But in the snaps that Keaton Mitchell does get, I expect to see some explosive plays out of him. He's a very, very dynamic, talented player that the Ravens want to get more out of, right? And getting more out of him is going to help this team overall. All right, so that's what I'm looking out for. For the Ravens, you had a good game plan last week. You cannot just line up every first down and 10 and run the football. Use the short passing game as an extension of the run game, right? That's a part of expanding on last week's game as well. Can you do that? All right, can we get, because obviously, Bateman's going to be out this week, but can we get Zay Flowers underneath, for 5 yards? Can we get Isaiah Likely underneath 5 yards, 7 yards? Now you're in 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, whatever it is. You could do whatever you want. You could run here. You could throw the ball here. It's perfect opportunity that you have the defense on their heels. Too many times the Ravens just run the ball on first down. Now they're getting no push. Now it's 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. Now you're in a hole. All right. So I want to see them throw the ball more on first down, not just to throw it down the field, but as an extension of the run game, as some quick passes. All right. That's what I want to see. So we'll see if they can expand on that last week. I thought they did a really good job of that last week. Can you expand on that and make it a true central part of this offense? Because that solid play is going to help you win games in the playoffs when it matters the most. All right. Now, defensively, for the Browns, it's really about limiting their young rookie quarterback, running back, Quinshon Judkins, right? You can limit him, then, you have a very, very good chance. All right. So I was going to say something. So with Quinshon Judkins, if you can limit him, you have a very, very good chance of stopping this Browns offense, right? Now the Browns offense, I'm not saying that they're the most, difficult offense to stop, regardless, but when you have a young running back that's a threat like he is to take it to the house, to get constant yards, I like Quinshon Judkins because he's not just a power back. He's not just a speed back. He's a every down, do it all kind of running back, right? So when you have that kind of talent, that's the guy the Ravens got to watch out for, right? Because this Browns passing attack hasn't been good. All right. So if you can get them, and same thing I was talking about with the Ravens, right? You don't want to be in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8. If you can get the Browns offense in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, now you open up a whole world of possibilities for yourself, right? So to me, that's the number one key to the game is how do you stop Quinshon Judkins? And number 2 is I want the defense. Let me back it up. I want the defensive line to have another strong performance. Excuse me. All right. So Mike Green looks like I'm gonna say probably like he will be out this week, right? We'll see what happens when they officially announce it on game day. But even with that being said, Travis Jones had a great game last week. Draymond Jones had a great game last week. CJ Okoye had a really good game last week. When it comes to this defensive line and edge room, you don't want to see lose another edge. You're already light in there. We'll see if the Ravens activate Carl Lawson. But regardless, this defensive line room had a really, really good game last week versus the Minnesota Vikings. I want to see that again, all right? Because one, the Ravens are going to need to be able to start getting home with 4. And last week, there was some signs of that. There was some improvements on that. It's not really where 100% where you need to be. They will still need to probably blitz a lot of the times to get that pressure. But like I said, Travis Jones was manhandling guards. Draymond Jones came off the edge multiple times, causing pressures, causing J.J. McCarthy to move off his spot. He can do the same thing to Dylan Gabriel, right? I talked about it already. This Browns offensive line is not that good, all right? So, they're giving up, I think, almost three sacks a game. And some of that's on the quarterback, but some of that is on the offensive line not being that good. All right, so that's 23rd in the NFL. So when I look at this game, there are a lot of things that the Ravens could do. But mainly when it comes to the defense, limit the run, limit Quinshon Judkins, especially on early downs, so the Browns can get into favorable pass situations. Secondly, get after the quarterback, right? It's not like a complex game plan. All right, this is a young rookie quarterback. Dylan Gabriel ain't that young, but if it's a rookie quarterback. Can you confuse him? Can you get after him? That's what it's going to be about. All right. And then lastly, the X factor about this game is that it's focus. It's really just the focus is the key to the game. Okay. The Ravens are on a 3-game winning streak. That doesn't mean that you're all the way back, that you're now the best team in the AFC, like some of you projected you to be, the best team in the NFL, which some of the, the analysts projected you to be. That's not what that means, right? The Ravens still have a lot to do. The Ravens are still below 500. They entered this game 4-5. Okay. So this game can get you to 500, 5-5 on the year. This game can really start to turn around your hopes of trying to win the AFC North because the Steelers are slipping a little bit. So just because you're on a winning streak does not mean you're all the way back. Still a lot more work to be done. All right, so that's one. Two, you cannot play down to the level of competition. Now, when I say that, this game is a little different because the division games are always a little different. So it's hard to say you can't play down to the level of your competition, but you are clearly the better team. Like, it's no competition. There's no debate about it. Nobody's on the fence about this. You are clearly the better team. Even with the injuries that have occurred for the Ravens, you are the better team. So for the Ravens, that's always the thing that, especially on the John Harbaugh, that's been a thing, right? When they play these good teams, they usually get up for the games. It's usually a good game. It's usually a battle. When they play bad teams on the lower end of the spectrum, it's a drag out fight all the way to the end. I don't want to see that. You're playing against a Browns team that is, I won't say they're tanking, but they're not in a position to win games. So do not make this a competitive football game. All right. If the Ravens can do that, obviously they'll win. It's just about how much they'll win by. So, I expect the Ravens to win this week. Expect them to win by 10 points plus. If their focus is on the top of the line discussion, I expect the Ravens to win by 10 plus. That's my expectation of it. We'll see if that happens. Obviously, give me your guys' thoughts on the game. So one other thing too, this upcoming week, I'm gonna be on a cruise, so I'm not really sure how Wi-Fi is going to be, things like that. I'll be able to watch the game on Sunday, but as far as doing videos during the week, I'm not 100% sure. But I'll definitely get my thoughts still after the game. I'll be able to do that at least. But I'll talk to you guys then. It's Gabriel to the Fan TV. I'm out.